2019, it's 5. Impeach President Trump for illegal wars and tortures. I'm going to ask you to read this yourself, but I'm going to tell you, well, maybe I should read it. But I'll tell you ahead of time, the board actually is not in favor of this resolution, and not because we are defending Donald Trump, but just because we had a variety of opinions on the board, but they all kind of added up to not worth our time. And that includes rancor we've had in the organization in the past. We had a impeach Bush. We had a push George W. Bush resolution, and then we had an impeach Obama resolution, which caused a whole lot of confusion and division in the organization. And then of course people said, well, you're being inconsistent. You'll only impeach Republicans, and we also don't see impeachment as a realistic path. I mean, who's going to do the job of that? All the millionaires in the Senate, which is dominated by the Republicans. So our opinion, and you could have a totally legitimate different opinion, but the opinion of the board was basically, no, we don't want to go there. It's a waste of our time.
The vote was 12 to 1.
Thank you.
If I could just provide one tiny...
It's actually... Yeah.
The vote was 12 to 1 in that. If I could provide one piece of historical process, when we impeached Obama, or when we passed the resolution to impeach Obama 5 years ago or something, I don't know, more ago. It was in Portland, Oregon. The vote was the people in the room. So the vote was something like 51 to 47. So we didn't really feel that reflected, the masses of the people in Veterans for Peace. So we changed the rules to say that the membership gets the final vote. We didn't have full membership votes before that. We now do because of that. Yeah.
At any rate, I can read this if you want. It's not very long, and I guess it deserves a read. And then you express your opinions. Whereas the U.S. invasions, bombings, and occupations of Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and other nations, and torture initiated by previous administrations continuing under President Trump are illegal under U.S. Constitution, United Nations Charter, Hague and Geneva Conventions, UN Convention Against Torture, and Nuremberg Tribunal Charter. And whereas President Trump has committed criminal acts by continuing such illegal wars and torture without consent of Congress, and whereas the U.S. military or surrogates continue to use depleted uranium munitions, cluster bombs, and white phosphorus in densely populated areas, violating U.S. international laws and treaties prohibiting the indiscriminate killing of civilians, with Geneva Convention specifically prohibiting weapons, materials causing harm by remaining active after battle, and whereas babies born in Iraq and Afghanistan are suffering abnormal medical issues caused by toxic/radioactive materials, and whereas since 2001, millions of Iraqi, Afghani, Pakistani, Yemeni, Somalis, Libyan, Syrian, and other civilians have been killed, injured, maimed, poisoned, made homeless, economies ruined, costing taxpayers trillions. And whereas illegal torture of detainees and U.S. citizens by our military, CIA, and surrogates continues at Guantanamo and other facilities. And whereas Americans and VFP supported impeachment of Bush Cheney for similar war crimes now being committed by Trump, and VFP is committed to abolish war as an instrument of national policy. Therefore, be it resolved, VFP urges the U.S. House of Representatives to commence impeachment proceedings against President Trump for illegal wars and torture in violation of our Constitution, laws, UN Charter, international laws and treaties, and for other impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors. And finally, be it resolved, VFP members are urged to provide this resolution to their U.S. House members and encourage them to vote for commencing impeachment proceedings against President Donald Trump, submitted by Buzz Davis. Buzz submitted quite a few resolutions this time. Chapter 13, and there's a bunch of co-sponsors, individual co-sponsors listed here. So I don't.
George wants to speak.
So you want to speak to this, George?
Yes, I think since the key phrase. Oh.
So I'm sure a lot of people want to speak in favor and against this. Maybe
I think since one of the key phrases in there is ask Congress to do it, and then later on it says call your Congress members, and since the House of Representatives has recently introduced an investigation to impeach Trump, I think this becomes a moot point. So that's why I'm not going to vote for it, and I encourage other people not to.
Okay, would somebody like to speak in favor of this resolution?
Yeah.
I do.
It's worth my while over here.
Okay,
She's already standing here.
okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, Kara.
Kara Bisselwith, Chapter 13. Just because Buzz has 3 of the resolutions isn't anything to make him make us vote against anything. Anyway,
Actually 5.
everything in this resolution is true. While the House of Representatives has passed a resolution, it's still, the point is to start calling your senators then, even though it doesn't expressly say that. I feel that this is a germane issue for this body, considering this morning's discussion. It seems interesting to me that the people, the what is it, the 4 that our president has singled out are people of color, and now we here are a main group of whites, and mainly, and the board is mainly, and yet we're turning around and saying, oh, let's let it go. We should vote for this resolution.
Okay. Yeah, Nate is going to speak against.
Want me to call time in 1 minute?
Yeah, that'd be great.
1 minute. You can't say anything in 1 minute.
a lot.
Try.
Nate Goldscheid, Chapter 9 in Boston. Every single president is a war criminal. They're all part of the empire. Are we going to be, doing resolutions from here till the cows come home to impeach a president? It's absurd. We'll get in the trap where we're constantly voting for these resolutions to impeach, and it means nothing. Let's work on stopping wars on all the issues that we're working on, and not do resolutions that are really quite meaningless. And we had an issue with the Obama one, where there was an issue of whether the black community would support, and but just remember that every president is a war criminal.
Amen. Okay, Barry.
Yeah, Barry Reed, Chapter 27. I don't honestly believe anything's going to happen from our Congress or us. To me, it's symbolic. But for us as a country to stand by and do nothing to this guy's unbelievable. And he's proving that he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. And without 4 years and nothing happened to this guy, I think that we'd be remiss and not, be in opposition to this behavior in some way.
Okay. Do we have another speaker against? Are you all 4 over here? That's the.
Yeah, we're at 4.
You're 4. That's the 4 mic over there. You're against? Okay, go ahead.
Everyone in this room took an oath when we became part of the U.S. military to protect the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Trump is the biggest threat to our Constitution and our way of life in my lifetime. So it is treasonous in my mind for us not to speak out against him. So I think I'm in favor of this revolution.
You shouldn't be speaking if you're in favor of the resolution.
I'm sorry, wrong mixed up, but I'm in favor of the resolution because it is important that we use every voice we can to speak out and get Trump impeached.
Okay. Do we have any against? Any more speakers against? Then we're closing it and we're taking a vote. And remember,
Are you truly a speaker against? Okay, come up.
And so I would like to just say that what you did took the position that somebody who followed the instructions was going to have. And if he hadn't stood up to be against, you would have cut off his vote by doing that end run.
He would cut us off.
go ahead, sir.
Yes.
I just wanted to speak for it.
I just needed some information. Are we a 501c3 corporation?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay, my concern is this. 501c3 corporations exist for certain legal purposes, and nearly everything the Veterans for Peace does falls comfortably within the umbrella of that organization. Nearly everything the Veterans for Peace does falls comfortably within the legitimate purposes of a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. If you get too actively involved in political candidates instead of causes and issues, especially in support of and against political officials, a hostile government agency could look at that and say, you know what? You don't qualify as a 501c3 organization anymore, and your donations are no longer tax exempt because you're a political action committee. So because of that concern I have, I plan to vote against it.
Okay, we got four over here.
Impeachment's not a political act, it's a following of the Constitution. And I say we impeach this one now, and we'll impeach the next son of a bitch afterwards. We have to.
Okay. Against?
Point of information.
We're going to have a vote now.
Familiar with this, having been in a number of 501c3 organizations. It specifically states that you may not support a candidate for office, but you can support legislative efforts, which impeachment would be. So if you're voting for it just because you're afraid of 501c3 things, they got a whole bunch of other ways they could revoke our 501c3, and we'd never even realize it was coming until it was done. So that's a false impression that a lot of people have, that you can't participate in politics.
Thanks for the clarification, George. And so we're going to vote. And remember, no matter how we vote on this today, it's still going to go to the membership, and there'll be a bigger vote in October.
53-24-7. 53-24-7.
So it passes.
Okay. Obviously, a lot of support for impeachment.